Hi, and welcome to On and Off, our podcast covering the on-premise and off-premise beverage alcohol industry. I'm Melissa Dowling, editor of Cheers.
And I'm Kyle Swartz, editor of Beverage Dynamics magazine. In this episode, we're joined by Sadr Amir, CEO of Downtown Spirits and Esquin Wine and Spirits, two wonderful beverage alcohol retailers in the Seattle, Washington area.
Sadr recently celebrated his one-year work anniversary at this leading beverage alcohol retailers, two brands that remain at the forefront of industry trends. Sadr, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Esquin and Downtown Spirits really represent the past and future of wine and spirits retail in Seattle. I don't know if many of you know, but Esquin is the city's oldest wine merchant here. It's been over 50 years. And then we have Downtown Spirits, which is all about innovation and utilizing Amazon's Just Walk Out technology. So we're the past and the future, and it's very exciting to be here and build on the history and look forward to sharing where I see the industry heading next.
Great. So before we jump into our questions, can you tell us a little bit more about your background in the beverage alcohol industry?
Sure. I've spent nearly 2 decades in the wine and spirits industry. I spent over 17 years with Moët Hennessy, and then sometimes with Remy Cointreau. At Moët Hennessy, I served as the West Region brand manager for brands like Krug Champagne. I ran the whiskey portfolio and their estates, wines, and portfolio in the whole West Region United States. Before moving into sales leadership and role in Southern California, where I directed the on-premise and prestige retail chains and channel. I was also the business manager for Belvedere Vodka in the West. I led strategy and education and worked on major global campaigns for about 9 states. I moved to Seattle in 2017, where I continued with Moët Hennessy, and then at Remy Cointreau, where I was the regional senior business manager. I oversaw distributor partnerships and brand strategy across the Pacific Northwest, Alaska, and Hawaii. Throughout my career, I've had the privilege of leading teams, guiding global brands at the regional level, and shaping strategies that connect, these fascinating houses, heritage houses, with modern consumers. An experience that I bring now to Esquin and Downtown Spirits.
Yeah, very interesting to see you have moved into the retail sector of the industry, having come from the other side. Very, very cool to see. And I'm sure we'll ask you some questions about that. But first, I want to ask you, so our magazines have covered Downtown and Esquin for years. We had a cover feature on you guys a few years back when Downtown put in that cashierless model that you were mentioning that runs on Amazon technology. Can you tell us a little bit about this Just Walk Out concept?
The concept is obviously it's we work with Amazon. They use that tech. Basically, there's a couple of ways of entry. You basically tap your credit card to entry. You get a digital basket as you come in. I'm sure a lot of these people on this podcast might have utilized these at stadiums or some of the Amazon stores. You tap in, you can take your products off the shelf. It goes into a digital basket. You walk out and you will get a receipt within 10, 15 minutes with all your products in there. So it really is, it's cashless. There's some ease of it, but it's worked very well for us. It's actually been a game changer for the experience and staffing efficiency, and really for the convenience-driven shopper. The digital walkout model has removed friction at the door, and it's really freed our staff to focus on the service and education. Instead of just sitting at a register. From a customer standpoint, it's a novelty. Obviously, we get a lot of people who are very excited about the tech, and it shortens the shopping time for people who are convenient shoppers who just want to come in and grab a few things. But it also still allows us to offer really a lot of high touch service to customers who want it. Operationally, the tech has let us rethink shelf layout and product placement, and it's given our team space to provide expertise and kind of a really elevated a high level of service, create recommendations, and it given us time to build relationships with our customers, which is key in today's environment.
What are some of the ways that has changed the shelf layout?
Well, basically now, obviously, it's all data driven. We can really see where people are shopping in a store, what they're looking at, how long they're spending in certain areas of the store. And also, obviously, with Amazon, as we can talk about later, but the data we get is real time. So we can see what's moving quickly, and we can pivot quickly. We can add or reduce categories and make it, provide kind of new items to consumers very quickly.
Are there any examples you can think of where you noticed the product was taking off and you kind of shifted to where it was in the store? I'm just curious about how this all works.
Sure. So I think, here's one, and we can talk about it later, but obviously, as I think a lot of people have recognized, RTDs have shown as a big growth, right? So Gen Z has really moved into RPDs. I think a lot of it from the convenience shoppers, especially in downtown spirits, where we do tend to get, a lot of we do get tourists, we get the hotel people, we get, people at the cruise ship group come in, they're looking for something easier that they don't want to have to make a cocktail, but they can purchase something. So RTDs are definitely expanded. We saw the data very quickly on velocity and volume, and that's something we expanded the shelf set very quickly on.
Did I read, were you the first liquor store to use the just walk out technology?
Yeah, I think we are. We still are. I don't think there is anybody else. And the Just Walk Out, we're the first in the country. We work closely with Amazon. I know they're looking to expand, and we're looking at other areas we can expand it into. I think another thing of the Just Walk Out that I think people fail to realize, it gives you the ability to merchant higher end goods easily. In the sense, how many times you've gone to a store and you want something and it's behind a lock case? Dom Perignon or Krug or Bollinger or high-end wine. You have to ring a bell, wait for somebody to come unlock it. I mean, it's unfortunate the time, the situation right now, but we don't have to do that. You come in and you can pick up a bottle of Cristal or Krug, put it in your basket and walk out. You don't have to wait for it. And it gives us the ability to showcase these items up front to consumers.
Melissa, you must have read about them being the first in the nation in the article I wrote about that very subject.
Yes, I can't remember what publication it was, but needed a little work, but
I'm sure you added a few more semicolons in, as you always
I
do.
put my red pen down while I was
We're getting
reading.
really into the editor weeds here.
So why is this sort of state-of-the-art technology, so important at beverage alcohol retailers these days?
I think it's a couple things. I mean, it really it helps us work on, it's frictionless in the sense of retail tech. The data you receive, really, you get to do some deep analytics, inventory management very, very quickly. You get to recognize quickly customer trends and shopping behavior, what categories, brands are doing very well, and it allows us to keep SKUs relevant and spot fast-moving items. And it gives you the chance to pivot quickly. It also, from the data that you receive, it also helps you work on your e-commerce and digital marketing, which is a big focus for us. And you can really help guide your SEO based on the data you receive in this shopping. And now we're adding on AI into our tech, kind of our tech warehouse and wheelhouse, and that's another thing that's going to be helpful in the data we get from shopping behavior with the data with Amazon.
Sure. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that data is helping you?
Yeah. So the data we receive, you basically get it as you go on, and the data you can really just see, like I said, for me, it's really important to see trends. You can see trends very quickly. I think in traditional retail, it takes you a while to understand, but we could see how quickly things move, velocity, what times they move, but also the product and kind of see who really is purchasing these items. And that gives you the ability to really change your set very quickly. And it gets to do a lot of kind of things with the data. It also allows us to allow for CRM and email automation. You can target customers easily off the data that you receive and work through there. So it gives you a lot quicker insight into shopping behavior, which I think is key right now to retail, because you have to be very fluid to succeed.
Absolutely. That was exactly what I was just about to say, especially, this was your first year in this position. And certainly seems like you're newer to the retail tier, but obviously have a lot of experience with the other two tiers. And this has been a difficult year for the retail tier. It's been a difficult year for all three tiers. What's been your experience in this past year? And, like you said, I'm sure the importance of using data to try to help get you through this period of pullback in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, this year's been challenging for the off-premise store. I mean, it's been exciting and educational. I mean, we've obviously seen the industry correct after the COVID highs.
Yeah.
But it's also created opportunities. Really, it's given the opportunity to reconnect with core customers, strengthen supplier partnership, and really, it's focusing on experience that bring people into the stores. 24 into 24, early 25 was definitely corrective year across the board. Volume softened, consumers tightened discretionary spending in many markets as their share of wallet diminished. And I felt we need to be more surgical with our inventory management, promotions, and consumer outreach. It's also forced us to have smarter behavior, clearing back inventory thoughtfully, we've doubled down on experiences and private events and corporate outreach, where we explored segments like, curated gift programming and updated collect offerings.
Yeah, you can see
So
me nodding vigorously as you mentioned events and experiential, anything experiential. That's certainly been a common theme of our podcast this year is how important that is during this period of pullback.
Absolutely. I think it goes and ties into what Gen Z is looking for. I think a lot of people are looking for post-COVID after being stuck at home. I still think they're looking for experiences. I think everybody from travel to everything they do is looking for an experience. And you want people to come in. I think really one of the most important things is getting liquid to lips.
Yeah.
I think it's really key. Education and liquid to lips are very key, especially for the younger generation who might not have been exposed to wine or a lot of different wines or even spirits. And I think these experiences really help them understand, educate, and grow the categories.
yeah, it wouldn't be an on and off podcast if we didn't talk about Gen Z's drinking habits. Um,
I
what are
saw
your
you did an
thoughts on
article. I
that?
just saw the article. I think you just did a piece on it, right,
We,
Kyle?
I don't think I've ever stopped writing about Gen Z drinking
Okay.
habits this year. It's all I write about.
So what do you for Gen Z? Like basically, what are your thoughts on Gen
What are your
Z?
thoughts on their drinking habits?
Listen, I just think that I don't think there's a big doom and gloom about Gen Z. I just think that they're drinking differently, right? I
Mm,
mean, I think Gen Z is have had a tough segment from
agreed.
economically, from why they're a bit stagnated. They're running into post COVID, and I think they view things differently. They look their viewpoint on the world is very different, and they drink less alcohol overall. But they're also curious and they're intentional. I think they gravitate towards premium. They love craft and they really are. They like authentic products. I don't think you can slap a name onto just a general brand and expect them to take it. They want some authenticity, and they also embrace the and low alcohol options. And I think that's the key: is meeting them with experiences, transparency, and sustainability. Really understand what they're thinking about and what they would like to experience. I just think they're also, and when they come to they drink at home, they drink at small gatherings. They're not all about going out to bars. And I think for occasions, for retailers, they need to offer more approachable, low ABVs, RTDs, and really marketing that kind of emphasizes experience and authenticity versus in just volume. Here's a pack, drink
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, totally agreed. I was going to say I agree on all fronts. I've given my Gen Z rant on this podcast 1,000 times, so I'll save our listeners from this time. But total,
Oh,
as they know, I agree with everything. I won't give my long rant about how Gen Z was the most negatively affected by COVID, which I've said a thousand
Yes.
times on this podcast. But as you said it yourself, and I completely agree.
Yeah, and those, I mean, obviously, I think inflation's hurt them
Yeah,
heavily. I mean, a lot of them are coming out with higher debt levels out of school. Their share of wallet is diminishing as cost of
yeah.
goods and rent and all other goods have gone up. So obviously, they're going to be more thoughtful about what they purchase with their discretionary income, and I think that's very relevant.
But one day they will make more money, and then they will buy better alcohol or more alcohol. They do buy better alcohol now. I want to correct myself. They tend to drink less but better. But I do think as they earn more money, as they advance in their careers, as we're kind of getting at here, and as I've said 1,000 times, I do think they've been slowed by COVID and inflation in their
Mhm.
career growth. But that doesn't mean that their career growth is dead, obviously. So at some
No,
point they will continue to go up the ladder. I don't want to make this another Gen Z podcast. I did want to go back, ask you another question about the pullback in the industry because I was just in Kentucky for the Kentucky Bourbon Fest a few weeks ago, and I was asking everybody their thoughts on the industry pullback, and I got a lot of really good answers. I was at the Whiskey House of Kentucky, which is a giant new contract distillery over there, and I asked the founders what they thought because they're putting a lot of money into the market at a time that the market's going the opposite
right.
direction. And he made a good point, just like you said that COVID created an artificial boom in the industry, and he he put a specific number on it. He said a 40% boom that we've now seen the 40% pullback. The correction to
Mhm.
where the numbers were pre-COVID. So, and nobody really wanted to go on the record that they're happy to say how far we've fallen, but nobody really wanted to say how long they think it was going to last. I don't know if you had thoughts on how long it was going to last. Do you think this is more of a trend? Do you think this is permanent? Just your take on the pullback, the nature of it.
I see this as a reset. It's not a permanent decline. really pandemic numbers that you mentioned were heavily inflated. People were staying at home. What else are they going to do? They're going to consume some wine or some beverages. And now we're just normalizing. Growth will return, I think, especially in the premium and specialty categories. But it's going to look different from that we had during the COVID, where people were just drinking. I think they'd be more selective. So basically, my read is, it's largely a correction rather than a permanent death knell.
Yeah.
The COVID surge created unusual volume and inventory dynamics, but we're normalizing. I do think the environment's a bit uncertain, and there's some unease in the direction of the economy with tariffs and inflation. But there are real still pockets of growth, as you've seen in RTDs. We've seen it in premiumization, low and non-alc. They've shown great. They've shown growth this year. So I still expect there to be a period of consolidation through 25. I think you've seen that with suppliers, and you've seen that with distributors too. I mean, you saw RDC in California just disappear off the map.
Yeah.
And we've seen smaller suppliers get absorbed by bigger suppliers. But I think 26 is going to be recovery time.
Mm.
And I think for well-managed retailers who would adopt and focus on experience and services, I think there's a good opportunity to grow.
So David Mandel, the CEO of Whiskey House of Kentucky, who may or may not be our next podcast guest, he had a great quote where he said, 100 years of drinking culture in this country isn't going to disappear in 2 years. So like you said, it's a return to the mean from where we were pre-COVID, before the COVID boom. And that's certainly the opinion I'm coming around on now as well. And so you already answered this next question, but what are some of the best practices that you see in retail in 2025?
I think it's for the beverage alcohol 25. I think it's combining tradition with innovation. Maintain product knowledge and personal service, but layering technology for convenience. And I think investing in community engagement, tasting, events, education. Again, I really am post-COVID. I still believe it. I think people are looking for connection, not
Yeah.
just transactions. And I think be authentic with what you do. I think that's really key. We're up in Pacific Northwest where we definitely focus on some, Washington. It's all about authenticity for us out here. I think that's key, and I think that's a key for recruiting Gen Z as well. Educate and authenticity, and I think you'll go a long way with the new consumers.
Absolutely. You brought up an earlier point too that I liked, which was just premiumization. I know premiumization has been the trend already for like 10, 15 years, but it seems like it's even more important now because people still splurge on bottles. Alcohol is the ultimate affordable luxury. Again, I was just at the Kentucky Bourbon Fest. You want to talk about signs of an industry that still has life to it. 7,000 tickets sold out for the Kentucky Bourbon Fest in
Yeah.
a matter of weeks. And as soon as they opened the doors to the festival, people were running in to get first in line to buy rare bottles so that those higher end products, those rare products, those would still have demand. The lines were halfway across the entire fields of the Kentucky Bourbon Fest for some of these bottles. So the premiumization remains, the hype remains. Maybe people aren't buying as many bottles, but they're still buying bottles and they're still buying good bottles.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think people tend to be drinking a bit less, but they are, if they can, they will drink better. They'll
Yeah.
trade up and drink well. Like I know there's been a lot of discussion about bourbon and the decline of bourbon. Let's face it, there's been a lot of bourbon was put to rest many years ago, and that's coming to market. And I think, it's just a supply and demand
Yeah.
issue. But as you said, when these higher end limited release bottles go out, they go out very, very quickly. Like
Yeah.
people really look out for these Coy Hills, these rarefied. I mean, you don't have any problem selling Pappy. Um,
There was
Do you have any?
we do. And
there
then
there was a booth at the KBF where you could spin a wheel, like a wheel of fortune, to give you a chance at sipping some Pappy. And the line for
okay.
that was 50 people deep at all times, and you had like a 1 in 10 chance of landing on the spot that lets you get some Pappy. So again, that hype's not going anywhere.
No, I mean, here's an example. So I work a lot with Woodinville Whiskey up here. I don't know
Hmm,
if you know that
I
them.
do.
Mhm.
That Brett and Orland, they're really great guys. And obviously they're part of Millet Hennessy, so I kind of worked with them when we brought them over. And they've just started releasing a lot, old estate, age statement whiskeys. They just released a nine. I did a single barrel that eight for Esquin and Downtown Spirits. We're the only people in the country who got a single barrel from them. We got it in, we put it out. did some digital market. It's sold out so fast.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
it's not, these things will go. There's still a high
Yeah.
demand for the right product, I think is key.
Absolutely. Another nice thing about going to Kentucky Bourbon Fest is you get to learn about some of these brands. Obviously, a lot of the whiskey brands start in Kentucky and then work their way
Right.
out for obvious reasons. And one of the brands that I saw there was called Old Louisville, which I had never heard of before. And I'm like a
Mhm.
top 1% whiskey nerd, as Melissa always likes to make fun of me for. I'd never heard of it, and there was long lines for it. It was in the craft distiller section because it was still a newer brand. So I waited and I tried some. The same thing. I mean, they're a sourcing brand, but they had like an 8-year Bardstown and a 10-year MGP. And guess what? They're both absolutely delicious and
Mhm.
sold out the second they hit the table at the booth. And
Right.
so, like you said, like this is a brand that was only found, I think, a couple of years ago, maybe even less. And it already has an enormous hype. It already has an enormous following. It's putting delicious product out there. So again, it's the premiumization, like you says, putting the right product out. And it's the pullback from those artificial highs in COVID to kind of where we were.
Yeah, I don't think you can do it. You can't say any better. And I think from a retailer, I think data discipline, which I mean,
Mm,
SKU rationalization is going to be very important. I really am all about events and experiences,
yes.
digital and local, email segmentations, utilize tech. It goes
Yeah.
along with, there's a lot of tech out there. Utilize SEO, be flex on your merchandising. And again, it's key about having really staff who will educate your consumer, educate the people, the consumers, and your customers. People really have a desire for knowledge. I mean, wine is very complex. A lot of people are very scared of wine. No, I myself, I have some weaknesses. I don't know much about German, and a lot of people have a lot of concern. Like a lot of people don't know about Italian wines. A lot of people are confused about French wines. They want to learn, and I think that's where education is key, and getting to people try new things.
Yeah, good white wines in Germany. That's my thoughts on German wines. But events. We can't say that enough on this podcast. If you don't have a tasting room yet, if you're not doing dinners yet, you need to immediately start doing that as retailers. I'm seeing every single retailer who can building a tasting room, getting those dinners going, getting the tastings going. People buy when they try. They really do.
So I wanted to ask, because Kyle's been giving whiskey so much love as usual. What else is selling well for you?
Overall, I think for us, I mean, I would say, RTD is obviously, I think, from a convenient, also from a quality level, right? I think RTDs have improved quite a bit. We do a lot with straightaways. That might be because Alaska serves them on their airline. I don't know,
Mm.
but straightaways, Tip Tops is another one. But the quality of RTDs have improved a lot. So I think that's done very well. I think tequila is still having a very strong run, but not everything. I think, the non-additive tequilas have really seen a boom. I know the guys at Lalo, they've done a very good job with their product. G4, La Cartona has done very, very well. So the non-added tequilas have done well. And I agree with bourbon. Bourbon is still a very strong market, across the board. And we've seen that do very well. And then for us, premium wine. As we've talked about, you don't have any trouble selling DRC.
No.
It's not. The demand is there. Bordeaux is well strong. I think the weakness I've seen right now is Napa is having some issues. That's the only kind of the issue I've seen right now, especially for the Pacific Northwest, because Oregon's making phenomenal wines, and
Hmm.
obviously Washington make phenomenal red
Hmm.
wines. Napa's been, I think, for us, we've seen a bit of slowdown on that segment.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed on everything you said. For RTDs, I tell the story all the time. I'm a millennial, and in the last couple of years, all of my millennial friends just swapped whatever they were drinking for RTDs, and that's all they
Mm-hmm.
drink now. I go to gatherings, I go to barbecues, it's just RTDs. The cooler is nothing but RTDs. The craft beer, wine, all of it just got pushed aside, and it's just RTDs to a person at millennial events now.
Yeah, it's ease, right? It's
Yeah,
ease, it's
It's
convenient
easy.
for gatherings. So, and I do agree. Like, I think they've just
yeah,
improved. The
good
quality has
products.
improved of the product. So, cut water,
Yeah.
designers, everybody just looks out for them. It's just grab them, go. It's summer out here. People are just grabbing them and going out to the boats and out to the parks.
Totally agreed. Also, Lalo and G4, just wanted to say two of my favorite tequilas, too, that I tell everyone that they should be trying. Lalo, I remember trying that product when it was only in Texas and just knowing immediately that it was going to go national. It's one of those products you try and it's just like, oh, that's high quality. That's some good juice. And the price is good on it, too.
Good price,
Yeah.
good packaging, and good quality. I think it's free, and it's got and it's got some good heritage,
Yeah, good
Don
story.
Julio. Yeah, so it's a good story. So I think these are all things that really make a product successful.
Absolutely.
And then another one is Tequila Ocho. You've seen that
Yes.
move.
Yep.
Ocho is
Great
really good.
product.
Yeah, another good product. So I think that's, I think that's going to continue to grow.
So I think we have time for one more. So here's an easy one. What do you see for the beverage alcohol industry like in the next few years ahead?
As we discussed, I think a blend of premiumization and personalization. I think customers will continue to trade up for quality, and they're expecting retailers to know their taste and also deliver convenience. I think technology will play a much bigger part for retailers, and I think retailers who balance innovation with authenticity, I think they're going to thrive. I think the industry is going to move to a smarter, experience-led retail. And I think technology is going to help remove friction and free teams up to do what they're meant to be doing, which is sell knowledge and help educate consumers. I think categories like RTDs and moderate products like low and non-alc, I think they continue to go. And I think, for us as a retailer, I think retailers that double down on curation, relationships will outperform. It's really not about competing on price and more about, providing a touch service, high level touch service, about being a destination. And I think those who adopt those, these assortments and commercial model, they're going to do well as the volume normalizes in 26.
Yeah. Well said.
Okay. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you again to Sadr for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And thanks to everyone who tuned in for this episode of On and Off. We appreciate all of our listeners. Please do join us next time and we'll talk about yet another fascinating topic that spans the retail and restaurant worlds. Until then, cheers.
Cheers.
If you enjoyed the On and Off podcast, please hit the subscribe button. Also, you can find more great content at cheersonline.com and beveragedynamics.com, including recipes, product reviews, and interviews with the movers and shakers of the beverage alcohol industry. You can also sign up for our free weekly e-newsletters for both publications on our websites. Cheers!